Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast.
Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Austin Sims. Motivated by a belief that real change needs to come from consumers, Austin co-founded Dayrize in 2021. After 20 plus years spent working in senior marketing positions at major corporations around the world, Austin had a desire to use his skills to address climate change. With a strong marketing background, he believed that putting the power in consumer hands was important to make real change. He recognized that the first thing that consumers needed to make a change was access to information to make better decisions, which is why he developed the Dayrize score tool. Well, good afternoon, Austin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. This is amazing. Again, we were just talking about before we got on the mic, Austin, is the fact that I get to hear your story today, and we get to turn around and share that with everybody. And that's really inspiring. So again, goosebumps here, ready to listen in. Let's jump into your questions here and talk a little bit about Dayrize. Congrats on that with the launch of Dayrize, of course, but maybe you could tell us a little bit about the technology and why it's important.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So before I jump into the technology, maybe just to give a little bit of context about how we started as a business. We started a few years ago, and really where we started was trying to solve a consumer problem. I was actually on holiday with one of my co-founders, and we were watching our children play in the swimming pool with a plastic toy, and we got into this big debate about whether that toy was sustainable or not. And after quite a long debate, we realised that we were both debating our own points of view without actually any facts. Which got us thinking. And then when we dove down that rabbit hole a little bit further, we realised that there wasn't a lot of information for consumers to understand the sustainability of products. And the reason for that is actually because most businesses don't understand the impact of the products that they create. So that was really interesting for us. And the reason for that is to actually understand the impact of a product is really complex. There's a lot of complexity through any supply chain. And there's a lot of trade-offs through that supply chain as well. And so the existing ways of measuring that are quite manual, expensive and time-consuming. And that's where we applied the technology. So we basically took what is a very old, laborious and expensive system and actually applied technology to it. And we did that in a few ways. One of the ways is, as you can imagine, for a lot of brands or businesses, the products that they don't have complete data about the actual supply chain. And so we actually apply technology to complete that picture. So we get a full picture of that product. And we do that in a number of ways. So we can actually get a full picture of that product and its various impacts. And then we actually, you've got a very unique algorithm that then takes all these data points that we've collected and then computes that into a report that the brands get that actually tells them the impact of their products and really precisely can go into detail about where that impact is and gives them specific, different ways that they can actually make that product that actually enhances it and reduces its impact. So we're using technology at the front end to actually gather that data. So where there are gaps, we're using a lot of different data sets and sort of algorithms to collect that data. And then actually when we have it, the computation of that data and then pulling it together in a way that brands can actually enhance their product are the two ways that we're using technology.
Thank you for sharing. And I appreciate that. We're always trying to make the world a better place. And we're seeing the innovation, especially this last couple of years, and that's exciting to see that. So thank you again, Austin. So maybe you can explain what greenwashing is then and how brands, prevent this.
Yeah, so I think we're seeing a lot of greenwashing in the marketplace. And I think greenwashing by definition is when you misrepresent your green credentials or your impact. And I think we see that a couple of different ways. One is I think there are instances that are well known where brands do that intentionally and be misleading. And I think consumers are getting smarter at seeing through that. But I think more and more what we see is that a lot of brands do it unintentionally, and that's because they just simply don't have the data. So that's what we're trying to solve for is actually rather than brands having to make their own claims and being unclear about what those claims actually are, what we're providing is an independent review of these brands and the individual products so they can actually substantiate their green credentials and actually talk about it with confidence because it's been independently verified. So that's what we're all about, is removing greenwashing by actually giving brands independent verification of their sustainability credentials that enables consumers to make better choices.
So that's a great point, and that kind of leads us into that next question, right? What are the credentials for Dayrize, and where do you gather your data?
Yeah, so I mentioned at the outset that we use technology for this data collection, and we do that in a number of ways. The first way is we do interact with the brands. So our business is actually built to actually help the brands make better products. And so we actually, first of all, we engaged with the brands to collect that data. But as I said, they often have missing information and data gaps. And I think that's where a lot of other assessments fall down, but that's where we apply technology. So we use third-party data sets that are available. We access geospatial mapping. So that tells us not only where a product is sourced from, but actually how it impacts the environment where it's sourced from. So that gives us another piece of data. And then we actually have our own database as well. So obviously, we've been live now for over 6 months, and we've scored tens of thousands of products. So we're gathering our own database as well. So that's where we get the data sources from, those 4 sources. And then together they give us a really accurate picture of the impact of the product. And then we use our technology then to score that product. And as I said, really give the brands detailed information about how they can improve or reduce the impact of that product.
Thank you. And again, I feel very enlightened just with a few questions here around what you do and the technology you're employing in this. So thank you. And so last question here, Austin, what drove you towards a career in green technology?
To be honest, probably for me specifically, it would be stage of life. I think I told the story at the outset that Dayrize came about from me sitting with my co-founder, or one of my co-founders, and looking at our children play. And I think we both had long careers, and I think wanted to combine what we'd done with actually something that we could be proud of to our kids, and actually look back and say we not only contributed commercially, but did something that was good for the planet as well. So I would say for me, it's probably more stage of life. But what I would say is, I think for the younger generation, I think they're so much more aware of this and so much more savvy when it comes to sort of being green and being eco-conscious. And certainly any of the people that we hire into our company at that age group are a lot more aware. So I think for me personally, it was stage of life, but I think in the coming years and decades, I think the younger generation have a much better handle on this. So I'm expecting a lot more people to navigate towards this as a career path.
That's awesome. And again, many, many stories have been shared on this platform, and it's about something that somebody is truly passionate about and inspired. And I'm glad that you have that and you've shared your story today. So Austin, I want to let you know it was a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for your time.
Bye for now.